Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to a special show about a very special project that's taking place in Ilford within East London. A group of faith leaders have come together to support a very special project that the Salvation Army are leading within Ilford. The project is known as Project Malachi, and it's a very special pop-up shelter that's being created. The aim of this pop-up shelter, hostel for instance, is to support the rough sleepers that we have in the area, particularly people who have no recourse to public funds. This has an impact on Punjabi Sikh men who are unfortunately sleeping on the streets of Ilford. So it has a huge impact on the community locally and the Sikh community particularly. So we should be supporting this project. I'm very proud to be part of the sponsoring committee, but there are other Sikhs from the community as well who are coming to support the Salvation Army in this noble project to help people and to get them back on their feet. And to support them through a whole process of trying to perhaps even go back to Punjab if they wish to. So I'm going to now take you inside and we'll speak to John Clifton, who is the founder of this project and who's taking it forward. Thank you. So I'm here with John Clifton, who's a key member of the community in Ilford, so a familiar face, and also a member and a leader within Salvation Army, and also the key lead on this project. So John, what inspired you and what's the reason behind Project Malachi?
So Project Malachi began when we received a letter from a young man whose name is Malachi. He'd lost a tooth, and he received some money from the tooth fairy. He got £5, which I think was quite inflation. That's gone up since my time. But he sent that money, the £5, with a letter to us at the Salvation Army, and he asked us to use that money to buy homes for homeless people. So that's really where it began, and so we thought that was a great idea, and so we started looking for some land, and that's really where we're up to. We've been able to identify a site, which is just around the corner from the Salvation Army, right in Ilford Town Centre, which used to be the site of a funeral director's, and that building is currently being knocked down. And then we're going to build the hostel and a bike workshop on there to be able to support some of the people who have been sleeping on the street for quite a long time into a better situation.
Yeah. And what makes this so important for us as a community? And why are you taking on the lead? And why is it not government bodies and other agencies?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have 60 rough sleepers in Ilford, according to the last official count. Now, 42 of those have no recourse to public funds, which means that they can't access the benefit system. So the council has their hands tied a little bit in being able to support them. So we've been trying to find a way to work with them to be able to channel resources to be able to support people. And this is the route that we've been able to come up with. So it means that the community is taking on a responsibility for people who can't access state support. And obviously, one community, one faith group or one group in the community can't do that on its own. So we've really been reaching out to the Sikh community, to you, and to the Muslim community, and to other Christian churches as well, to be able to work together so that we could address this need. Lots of these guys have been on the street for a number of years. Many of them over 2 years, so they're in really difficult situations, but we reckon that with this approach that we'll be able to make a big difference to them.
Absolutely, and I think I've not heard of a project like this, not for a long time, where so many members of different communities have come together. Well done for gelling everyone and getting everyone together. It's a common cause. And I think what the viewers need to understand as well is, of the 42 that you've mentioned, a significant number of those 42 are Punjabi men, destitute Punjabi men who are unfortunately stuck in the system in the country as well. So this has an impact on those Punjabi men.
Absolutely. And while every winter we all come together to do the night shelter, but that's for a short period of time, and it's in a large room where it doesn't give people the stability or the safety to be able to make big decisions about their life. At the moment, where they're on the street, we're asking them to be making big decisions about where people are going to live their life. What side of the planet are you going to settle? But we're doing that while they're resting their head on a bed of concrete. So we can't expect people to be able to make good choices in light of that. So we hope that with the hostel that we'll be able to do that.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to all of it, and I'm speaking later on as well. But the viewers will find out more about the project as we go along. Thank you, John. Cheers. I'm here with Imam Muhammad Omar, representing the Muslim community. Imam Sahib, if you can just tell us which groups you're representing.
I represent Gardens of Peace Muslim Cemetery, and I represent the Federation of Redbridge Muslim Organization.
That's brilliant. I think I was talking to John earlier on, and these kind of projects are very rare, where it brings the whole community together. And certainly this is, in my lifetime anyway, I've seen a very few, and this is certainly one of them. What brought you to the project? Because you're a well-known member of the community. Most of Redbridge know you're a familiar face. But what specifically brought you to this project?
What really brought me to this project was that we believe that homelessness affects everybody, no matter what religion, faith, or non-faith they may be. And we believe that as human beings, we should be supporting those people who are not as well off, or who have got problems and got no shelter. All religion teaches you that you should always try and help somebody and ensure that they are absolutely have the basic needs. And I think what can be more of a human being than assisting somebody with shelter? That is what all of us, even Guru Nanak said that, even our Prophet, peace be upon him, said that. And from my perspective, this is one project which has got no faith, has got no religious significance, but just humanity, the goodness of people. And that's what really attracted me to this project. And we have been over 5 years supporting every year Salvation Army's Christmas time when they have the shelter. We have always supported them in terms of food, in terms of some assistance, financial assistance. So we just thought it was a natural progression. When they invited us to this project, we thought it fits in perfectly with our own objectives to ensure that we eradicate in Redbridge at least the homelessness if we possibly can. It's never going to be ever solved, but I just thought. And the other reason what attracted me to it is because I happen to be a trustee of the Big Issue, which actually was the first organization which looked after homelessness. Yeah, and on the street. So that is what really attracted me to say that no, it's no point helping somebody for temporarily for 6 weeks. Let's try and find a solution for the homeless people, which will be a lasting solution, or at least give them a break as a stepping stone. And I think most of these people who are homeless just needs a hand to get on their feet. And I think that's what we should do, really. Helping them for 1 or 2 weeks is not going to be really the solution. And the solution is give them a piece or a time whereby they can actually stand on their own 2 feet. It may be 1 month, it may be 2 months, but let's give them that particular opportunity to try and get back to the normal lives. And that's the reason what attracted me.
That's brilliant. Thank you. That's very inspiring words, anyway. So thank you again. Thank you. Okay. I'm here with Councillor Keith Prince and Councillor Jazz Atwell. So prominent local faces. And I'd like to turn to you, Keith, because I know that you're also involved with the Salvation Army. Obviously, you'll be involved in this project as well. As a councillor, what inspires you and what brings you to these kind of projects?
Well, I think a lot of it is the inspiration of Captain John Clifton and his lovely wife Naomi. I mean, they're fantastic people. But, you know, you can complain about things, can't you? But what you have as a moral duty is to actually do something about these issues. And it became very clear to me when I was leader that something needed to be done. And John and I started speaking about what needed to be done in the area. And we progressed it. But then we had this thing called an election. And Jazz won very fairly and squarely. But as Jazz just reminded me, one of the first things we did after he became leader is we sat down and we discussed this project. And Jazz has taken up the mantle and doing a fantastic job. So it'd be really nice, you know, if at the end of this we can say I started it and he finished it.
Yeah. I think that's a great sign for Redbridge to actually see that transition and that sort of unity and diversity, not just in faith groups, but in political parties as well.
I think what Keith had just said is spot on. That was one of the first decisions we made, was to actually try and see this through. And it's really great because it's not political parties, it goes beyond that. And certainly to look after our own people as human beings, it's our duty. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is make sure as a political party, as politicians, but fundamentally as human beings, we do the right thing. And I absolutely, agree with Keith, because he did start it off, and I think anything good that is started must be seen through to completion. It's our duty, and that's what we're trying to do. So certainly, I think when this project comes to fruition, I hope to see Keith standing there, taking the credit where it's due.
Yeah, I think it will be a great example of the best thing about working together as political parties, that we put aside our political differences and we do what's right for the whole community. And I think this would be a great example to the whole of London, actually, is how we can work together, and by doing that we achieve much more than just fighting each other and scoring cheap political points. It's more important we put the community first.
That's great. It actually makes me very proud to be part of Redbridge, actually, to hear that anyway. So thank you again. Thank you. Cheers.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'd encourage you, if you're in the cafe area or if you're with the activities, come forward, and we're going to move into. We're going to hear from some people. My name's John Clifton, and I'm one of the officers here at the Salvation Army. So really glad to be able to welcome you today as we celebrate the progress that's been made so far on Project Malachi, and to celebrate what people have been working on during that time. Over the last 6 years, we've been really proud here at the Salvation Army to be able to host the night shelter, and to work with the community to be able to keep people who are sleeping rough alive during the coldest part of the year over those winter months. And it's one of my favorite things that takes place as the whole community comes together, as we have Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, people of all faiths and none come together to join in that and address a common need. Homelessness and rough sleeping doesn't care about your religion or your background or where you're from. The issues affect each of us in different ways. Last November, the rough sleeper count for this borough confirmed that there were 60 rough sleepers in the borough, 42 of whom have no recourse to public funds. So they have no access to the benefit system. 36 of those 42 have been on the street for over 2 years. They are our neighbours, they are members of our community. And in trying to look after them, Project Malachi is one of those responses. That statistic for our borough makes Redbridge the 8th highest local authority in the country for rough sleeping, and the 3rd highest in London. And I think with that in mind, I do want to recognise Redbridge Council for the honesty in that count. If all boroughs matched that, I think it would be helpful. But in being able to honestly appraise our situation and see what's going on, we were able to come up with solutions to be able to make a difference. And Project Malachi is one of those responses. Given the specific nature of rough sleeping challenges in Ilford, we're working hard to design a project that is tailored specifically so that we can help the people that we know so well into better situations in the long term. And it all began really when a young boy called Malachi. Some people have been asking us, why is it Project Malachi? They've also been asking, how do you pronounce it? It's Malachi, okay, Malachi. But a young boy called Malachi, who is here today. Where is he? There he is. Malachi is here. He wrote a letter to us at the Salvation Army. So Malachi, I want to invite you here. I want you to come up. Come on, let's welcome him. So he wrote a letter to us, and this is what he said.
Dear Salvation Army, I pray you get money to buy houses for everybody. I have £5 from the Tooth Fairy. Please use it to buy a home. I hope you have a good day. Love, Malachi, Justin. God bless you.
So we thought that was a very good idea of Malachi's. And so we were looking for land. We were looking for a site that we would be able to use. And we became aware of a site just round the corner, which had been empty, a building that had been empty for a number of years. And we found out who owned it. And we went to the owners, the council, and we said, might this be possible? And we're really excited that the council have endorsed the project and that they're supporting it and have made that site available. If you could stay here with me if you want to, or you can head down. It's up to you. You don't mind. I love the face painting. Stay here with me. And the council has recommended that a lease be granted to the Salvation Army, and we're working out the details of that to be able to take on the site. I don't know if you've walked past there recently, Chadwick Road, the funeral directors. You'll have noticed that hoardings have gone up outside, and there's a digger on the site. There's something coming down, okay? And that site is going to be cleared in order for us to be able to have the opportunity to develop a shipping container style accommodation. So we're tailoring the project to be able to accommodate people in that sort of development. But this really is not about addressing an abstract issue. This is not about addressing homelessness. This is about specific people. We know the names of those 42 people with no recourse to public funds. We know them very well. And I know there's a number of people here who have volunteered at the night shelter, at the Welcome Centre, who count these people as friends, much as I do. And this project is about being able to create conditions for those people to be able to support themselves and to be able to move on into better situations. As well as the accommodation aspect of it, we also have our bike social enterprise. I look up there because I see our bikes. And many of you will know that we run a social enterprise called Recycles in here, and it's open for 2 days a week at the moment, and we would like the opportunity to move towards a 6-day opening so that we could train more people, recycle more bikes, and get people into better situations. Since the last time that we spoke about the project as a group together, Redbridge Council, as I said, the Cabinet have recommended that lease, and they've also supported the proposals that were made in the Immigration Corporate Panel as part of the Fairness Commission for us to drive this project to become a reality. We've raised our first target amount. No, I said first target amount, but we've raised that. Having hit £10,000 and gone beyond that now, which is wonderful news. As I mentioned, the demolition of the building has begun, and we've also begun our ground campaign of Project Malachi. If you live in Loxford at the moment, you may meet people who are wearing Project Malachi t-shirts, bringing you a flyer and knocking on your door just to introduce people to the project, so that this could genuinely be something that's owned by the whole community, because it's happening right in our town centre, and we want everyone to be a part of it. But today we want to celebrate that. We want to hear from our local politicians. We also want to hear from our sponsoring committee, don't we, who have worked really hard to be able to bring the project this far. And we have a new resource available, which gives some information about that and means that you can take some of these to be able to share the information with your neighbours, at your churches, at your Gurdwara, at your mosque, to be able to share what's going on with Project Malachi. Without further ado, I will stop talking now, and I'm going to hand over to someone who's supported the project right from the very, very, very beginning, who told us that that site was owned by the council, and helped set this on its way. And that's Keith Prince, councillor in Redbridge, but also our assembly member with the Greater London Authority for Redbridge and Havering. Please welcome him as he comes.
Well, thank you very much, John. As John mentioned, there's a number of us who work at the night shelter. I'm very fortunate. I do the Thursday evenings with my lovely wife, Timoteo. Apparently, we're both joint coordinators, but that's only when she lets me take charge, of course. When I first started working at the night shelter, I had a really good feel about it. I was conned into it in a way, though. To be fair, I said to John, I'll come down as leader and do a couple of nights, because just visiting as the leader I thought was a bit of a cheap shot. So I thought I'll come down and actually volunteer for a couple of nights. And I did one night, and then because of council commitments I couldn't do the other night. So I said to John, I feel a bit bad about that. I'll make it up. Tell me which is your quietest night, and I and my wife will come and make up for the one night I didn't do. So I get the email back, well, that'll be Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve. So I said to Tayo, I said, well, these are the options. Which one do you want to do? And she said, oh no, we'd do all three. That'll be our Christmas present to Jesus. I thought, you've got your wife, you've got Jesus. You've got no chance, Keith. What can you do but agree? So we did, and then we got hooked, and it's such a wonderful feeling. At first, it was a wonderful feeling, you know, that you're helping these people, that you're making a contribution. But then it becomes a bit frustrating, because once you've been doing it for 2-3 years or more, you see the same faces. I mean, there is a churn, but some of the faces you see again, and you know that you're helping them during that cold winter time, but who's helping them outside of that? And that's what I found. I don't get depressed, but I find that a bit depressing. And so when John came to me and said, look, we're thinking about doing this, and he mentioned the Gildersons, it was ours, so I said, well, look, you know, you can have it, basically, as far as I'm concerned, but of course it was completely derelict and wasn't usable. But what John failed to mention was, and I believe I'm correct in this, John, the first meeting that Salvation had in Ilford was actually in that building. So there's a real link between that building or that location and the Salvation Army. I really can't put into words my gratitude for what John and Naomi do here in our community in Ilford. And the fact they're leading this project is just so amazing. And I really do think that we have been truly blessed to have two such people. I'm sure there will be someone in the Salvation Army who will claim the glory for having given you this commission. But I think we all know really that it is divine intervention. It is the Lord who have put you here amongst our community, and we are so grateful for that. In closing, because obviously I could go on a week, I would just like to say that John brought the idea to me. I started it, but then there was this little thing called an election, and I lost, and Jazz quite rightfully won, fairly and squarely. I wouldn't have said that in public, but he did. And he reminded me today, actually, that one of the first things we discussed, because we did a handover, it's been a very good partnership with me and Jazz. We've worked very well together, and you know, I think the only responsible thing to do as an outgoing leader is to brief an incoming leader. And one of the first things we discussed was this project and how we could make that go forward. And Jazz absolutely got it and said, Keith, I'm going to make this happen. So whilst I think I started it off, whilst I lit the blue touch paper, it is going to be Jazz that actually delivers the project. And I think this is a really good example of where political parties can put aside all the minutiae around the politics, all the theatre of politics, and actually work together to achieve something for the community. So I'd like to personally put my thanks down on record to Jazz for carrying this through, and I think it's now time to welcome him to the stage.
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm not quite sure which part of, which side of 12 o'clock we're at the moment, but I think good everything, because I think this project, Project Malachi, I think we together as a community must deliver it. I think it's our duty as human beings to certainly look beyond this cliche about no recourse to public funds. What does that mean? It means when people are sleeping rough, it's snowing, it's November, December, and you turn your head the other way and you carry on walking because you've got a warm home to go to, central heated, and because they fall under that particular wording, no recourse to public funds. Well, we need to go beyond that, because as human beings, I think it will be complete remiss of our duties as public servants, as human beings. So that's why we must deliver this project. I would like to associate myself certainly with the committee. The dynamic duo, the two Cliftons, John and Naomi, I think, you know, you cannot say enough good things about this couple. They're absolutely wonderful. They're giants within Redbridge, and I think they deserve a round of applause. Thank you. Can I also say a real big thank you to the rest of the committee. Certainly we've got Muhammad Omar, we've got Mankamal Singh, and we've got Reverends Harcourt and Sherwood. I think, please, put your hands together for the whole committee who made this happen. And as Councillor Prince says, that this was a project which, at the early stages, he's been there right from the beginning. And he's absolutely right when he said to me, Jazz, this is something we must take forward, and certainly I'd like you to have a look at it. And there was no choice to be made. It was completely yes, he was pushing through an open door. And I think I'm just surprised through the various layers of bureaucracy, whether it's the Salvation Army or whether it's the Redbridge Council or whether it's just the way the world we live in, that it's taken such a long time. But I know in the meantime, certainly in the winter months, the Salvation Army have certainly been looking after these 60 individuals, especially the 42 who come there day in, day out. Certainly they depend on the Salvation Army. And I think we've got to work together and we've got to push this together. And if we can do that, I think it will be a real aspiration of ours if we can deliver Project Malachi, have that place set up so that these people who are our fellow human beings, who have the opportunity to have a warm dinner in the evening, who have the opportunity to have a warm bed at the end of the day, and certainly for us to be able to help them, whether it's, as John Clifton said, through the social enterprise with the recycling, if you excuse the pun, with the recycling where you not only teach them how to eat, but you actually feed them and you teach them how to live. And certainly being able to give them some sort of a career training, which is what I think the aspirations have been, like the model they have in Swindon. If we can deliver that here, and that's why I think Redbridge Council are firmly on board. And I thank certainly Councillor Rye, who's sitting in the public here somewhere, that certainly he took it through under his remit, made the money available, made the site available, and we can then deliver it going forward. This is a joint enterprise. We must not turn away from this. We must see this through to completion until we eradicate homelessness within Redbridge and beyond. And I think if we can be some sort of an example to other boroughs, then certainly this problem will be taken away from our streets, from our houses, from our shores, really, and we must work hard. So can I congratulate once again the whole committee, and can I in particular the Salvation Army for taking the lead on it, and Councillor Prince for starting it off. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Councillor Athwal. Understand with some time pressures, I would like to invite the members of the sponsoring committee, please, and their duly appointed representatives as well, to please come up to the stage. And Mohammed, please come. Mankamal, Helen, please, and Mike. I'd like to invite them to come to the stage, and Keith and Jazz, if you might come as well. We'd just like to get a photo of all of us together before we have an opportunity to hear from the sponsoring committee.
So this, friends, is members of our sponsoring committee, Mohammed Omar from FORMO, the Federation of Redbridge Muslim Organisations, Mankwar Singh from the Sikh Network and Atom Academy, Helen Morris, who is here representing Reverend Paul Harcourt from All Saints Woodford Wells, and Mike Broom as well. Mike is representing Reverend Gareth Sherwood from City Gates, and Mike's part of the family here at the Salvation Army as well as a volunteer. I've been wanting. I love being able to work with these folk. It's a wonderful privilege to be able to work with people who catch a vision straight away and are gifted in being able to implement these things. So I wanted to hear from them as well. So I'm going to hand over to Mankwar first, and then Helen, and then Mohammed, and then Mike.
Thank you, John. When John approached me probably just under a year ago, might have been late 2016, about this whole concept and the whole idea and the whole vision, I was just excited immediately, because I don't think anyone who doesn't want the betterment of the society around us, the community around us, wouldn't feel that they want to be part of this great epic project. And again, John, I relate to John because John's values, what John stands for, what Naomi stands for, is what I've been brought up on. And I've said this before, I see no difference in John in terms of his values and Sikh values. And I think he sees no difference in what I stand for with Christian values. And that's what makes this great, is that everything aside, this is a project about humanity, this is a project about compassion. And humanity and compassion doesn't look at race. Humanity and compassion doesn't look at religion. Humanity and compassion looks for the betterment of society. And that's what excited me to this project. There's not much more I can say that Keith and Jazz haven't said so eloquently already about the project and what John has explained. I'm just grateful to be part of this journey and that he's actually considered me. So what we can do from the communities that we can reach out to, the Sikh community, we will do our best to support this project. On a personal level, I'm so excited about this project that I've already changed my Twitter status to committee sponsor of Project Malachi. So for me, I'm in here for the long run. I'll support John all the way, and the Salvation Army deserve credit for this vision, because I've been an admirer of the Salvation Army's work for many years, what the Salvation Army was originally set out to do and what they're still doing. And that's what amazes me as well. So that vision and that support from the Salvation Army is just inspiring. So the least we can do as community members of Redbridge is to support this project and get it running. So thank you again, John. Thank you.
Helen, on behalf of All Saints Woodford Wells.
Hi, well, I think as everybody said, unless you walk around with blinkers on, we're all so acutely aware of the need out there and the issues out there, and so we're all so excited to be part of this project. And representing the church community, and I'm sure all of us here, that we all know that life can be very hard, but we believe that God is a good father who provides for the needs of his children. And it's through us, God's people, being his hands and his body here on earth, that we are going to work out his purposes. So all of us here are committed to being his instruments of blessing and provision. Care for the poor and the needy is at the heart of our faith, and the prophet Micah reminds us of what God requires of us, and God requires that we work for justice and that we practice mercy. And Jesus himself tells us to love others as ourselves, and that love shows itself in action, which is why we're all here today and why we're all behind this project. So we're going to be encouraging our Christian community and the churches in our area to pray, to give, and to serve, to help make this happen. The book of Acts gives us insight into what a community can look like when everybody pulls together, and what a community with God at the centre can achieve. And I could stand here all day, as I'm sure many of you could, telling stories of what we have personally seen God do in people's lives. But I want to leave you with these words from Acts 4:32 to 35 as a vision and as a prayer for this project. And Acts 4:32 to 35 says this: "And God's grace was so powerfully at work in them that there was no needy people among them." And may this be so for Redbridge.
Thank you, Helen. Mohammed, thank you.
Good afternoon. What can I say? All that has to be said has already been said by the previous speakers, but I would just like to echo what all of them have said. And as a Muslim community, we were really inspired by the work the Salvation Army used to do, and in particular John and Naomi, that we for the last 4 to 5 years have been helping them out in the winter project with all the provisions which they need. And at times we were told, you're giving too much, because they had no space to put that in. But we resonated with that so well, because really, as already been stated, that homelessness does not affect any particular religion. It affects every one of us. And you know what is so poignant when I'm just thinking about it is, the new site used to be a funeral parlor for the dead. Can you imagine? That is the same parlor we're now going to use for the living. This is something so poignant. So that God works in a mysterious way in order to ensure that we are trying to use that place for that. And remember, also in our faith, contrary to what you might be reading in the newspapers and reading in various press, we are a very peaceful religion. Our religion is for all humanity. In fact, in our holy book, the word all humanity is mentioned 409 times. And the mention of Muslims and Muslim men and women is only mentioned 49 times. And it always stays, the central theme is to ensure that you look after somebody who is worse off than you. And those people who are homeless, they just need a stepping stone. And this is what we should be providing as a community, so they can help themselves, but they've not had that opportunity. And like so many things in Redbridge, we are always seem to be the leaders in trying to bring innovative projects. And this is why it is so good for us as Redbridge, and in particular under the guidance of Salvation Army, that we've got to come through this project. And we all pray from the Muslim community that this project have all the success it needs, and it does not really reflect any particular religion, but it just reflects humanity. And this is what we should really do. And from our side, from the Muslim community, we will ensure that this project is publicized as widely as possible, and we'll ensure that it is successful. And I'll end to the fact that although the council has been kind enough to give us the lease for 5 years, we would ask you, because this project is going to be successful 100%, and we would want towards the council to make sure that it becomes a permanent structure. Thank you very much for coming to him.
Thank you, Mohammed. And now going to hear from Mike Broom, representing City Gates Church.
Good afternoon, everybody. Gareth Sherwood, who is on the committee, is on holiday, so he sends his apologies. So unfortunately for you, you've got me to fill in for him. For the past 6 years, individuals in City Gates, some people who are here today, have been involved in volunteering in the cold weather shelter and also the brunch sessions that are here every Saturday. So it's been part of our DNA as a church to get involved in helping the homeless. And with people volunteering, it has filtered through our church to the point where the leadership have had no option but to get involved in a project like this, because we know it's a very important issue. As we've heard from Helen, walking around Ilford, it's quite clear to see that homelessness is rising, and it's something that you can't shy away from. Whatever faith you are, it's something that hurts your heart, and you think, well, something that has to be done, and what can we do? So as a church, we want to get involved in something that is long-term, and also something that's practical. A major part of Christianity is that lives are transformed through the love of Jesus. That's something that is very, very important. So as a church, we believe at Project Malachi will do just that. Men and women who are struggling, who are homeless, or maybe just going through a rough time, will actually commit themselves to doing something long term, that over a year commit themselves to changing their life, changing their mindset, and to actually getting out of that hole that homelessness actually brings. So we as a church will want to support that, and Gareth, who's on the committee, is very passionate to ensure that we as a church actually do get involved in that. We're very proud as a church to support Malachi. There's some people, as I said, who are here today who have been involved in the shelter, who go to City Gates, and if it wasn't me speaking, one of the same people here could actually say the same thing, and will be just as passionate to ensure that as a church we support what goes on within Redbridge with this project. I want to finally end with another scripture. We've heard a few scriptures from here, another scripture from the Bible, from James chapter 2, from verses 15 to 17. And it's something that as a Christian is very important. It's great for us to say the right things, but also we have to live it out as well and act it out. So as I read this out, hopefully you understand where I'm coming from. It says this, James 2, verses 15 to 17. If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warmed and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, it's dead. So therefore, for all of us, particularly from a Christian point of view, but for our Muslim friends and our Sikh friends, if we don't put our faith into action by being practical, it really means nothing. So hopefully Project Malachi, under the leadership of John and Naomi, over the 5 year, at the very minimum, will ensure that many, many lives will be changed for the better. And, and people will see that it's not just faith, it's not just talk, it's also action as well. So thank you very much.
I'm really grateful to each of the members of the sponsoring committee, firstly for sharing a few words today, but also for the work that you're doing to make this project become a reality. I'm going to let you go back to your seats in a moment, but because I'm going to invite Major Janine Main, who's Divisional Commander for North London, to come and share a few words. But then after that, we'll all come back on stage, and Naomi will share a blessing with us. But please welcome Major Janine as she comes.
Much. Thank you, John, for your welcome. It's a great privilege to be here. Thank you for all the words that have been spoken by the sponsoring committee, by the councillors, and for me as the divisional commander of the North London Division. So I represent the Salvation Army and are responsible for all things Salvation Army north of the Thames and inside the M25. And there's a great deal of activity. But I am so excited to see what's going on here in Ilford. And I cannot really speak highly enough also, as you all have, of our officers here, John and Naomi, for the work that they're doing, for the drive they have, for the capacity and for the energy that they are bringing to this Salvation Army church and wanting it to put its Christianity into action, just as we've heard from Scripture. So thank you so much for what you are doing here and for the way that you are driving this project forward. We want to thank the council for their support, for their offer of this actual site and this land for us. I would endorse the fact that if it could be more than 5 years, we would be really, really pleased. But because the Salvation Army is investing a great deal of money into this, and we've found some funding streams, but we will need much more support. So I really do encourage you to raise as much money as possible as you can to support this project, because obviously we were not able to do this on our own, which is why there's a sponsoring committee, which is why you've all spoken so strongly about your commitment to this, and we are so very, very grateful. I thank you for being able to work, to see you work in this way, all faiths together, and it is so very encouraging to be part of this and to witness it today for myself. I believe that the Salvation Army's commitment to this is great. It's a kind of pioneer thing that we're doing. It's a new initiative. It's unusual for us to grow a homelessness project out of a church. And so John and Naomi are really walking and stepping ahead of the way. But what we are excited about is that I see other members of the Salvation Army, all that red tape stuff that we're talking about, those people and the layers that we're having to go through are getting very excited about it and saying we might be able to do this in other places as well, using this model. Wouldn't that be exciting if we could see it not only happening here in Ilford and Redbridge, but seeing it happening in other places because of the success here and the way that it's supported by the faith groups, the interfaith groups, the non-faith groups, and the council itself. So it would be very exciting to see this replicated in other places for the Salvation Army around the UK to challenge the huge project, the huge issue of homelessness that John has mentioned is all around us. And we would so love to see this happen with Recycles being part of it. So I want to thank you for your support. I want to affirm here the Salvation Army's commitment to this and wanting to make it work. And I believe it will, although there's so many stages to go through. There are time constraints that John is so frustrated about, and I appreciate that. We're all frustrated. We want it to work quickly, but we've got to get it done properly. And so we thank you for your patience. We thank you for your support. And I also pray that God will continue to bless all that you do here in Redbridge. Thank you very much.
So Major Janine is part of the project steering group, and she goes to battle on our behalf, on behalf of not just the church here, but on behalf of Redbridge, and she will be a face that will not be familiar to you, but she knows everything that is going on in this area and everything with Project Malachi. So we want to say thank you to you as well for the work that you're doing and for the way that you are fighting our corner. We really appreciate that and driving things forward. I'm going to invite the sponsoring committee back up and take them away, give them to members, children in your family or anyone who can fill those up, and then bring them back, and then you can take them away again and fill them up and bring them back and take them away again, fill them up and bring them. You get the point. But also there's a bit of a slip of paper on there for you to fill in your contact details, because we really want to keep in touch with you about the project. And then also one of the small brochures to share the information. And in a moment, now I think it was Keith Prince who mentioned that this site that we're going to be developing this hostel on, so on March 5th, 1886, the Salvation Army likes to march. Okay, and we marched from Stratford through to Romford. We passed through Ilford on the way. And somebody who had very good sense, on March 7th, on the Sunday, came back, okay, and said, we should be in Ilford. This is a good place. And the record in our history book says that that particular person went to a funeral director's on Cleveland Road. Now, it was Cleveland Road, which is now Chadwick Road, and rented the upstairs room of that funeral director's, of Gilderson's funeral directors. So we are quite rightly going back to our roots, not just in the work that we're doing, but physically as well. So it's a huge honour for us, Salvation Army, to be able to have that opportunity, and I am immensely grateful to all of you and to members of the sponsoring committee for making it possible. And in a moment, we're going to kind of replicate that walk. We're going to go round to the site so you can see what's going on there at the moment, but we're also going to have a little bit of an experiment to try and do what we've done there with the handprint and paint, but with the Project Malachi logo, an art installation. All right, we'll see how it goes, but at the very least we're going to get to see the site and see what's going on there, and there will continue to be refreshments and activities here as well. I'll hand over to Naomi.
There have been many words of thanks and acknowledgements that have been made to our leaders in our community, the leaders from the council and from our faith communities this morning, but I'm sure everyone who's standing on the stage at the moment and council leaders would also recognise that you're not a leader unless you have followers. And I think it's only right at this moment that we also acknowledge two groups of people who partly, some of them are the same. Firstly, the volunteers and the supporters of the night shelter over the 6 years. If that project and that annual project had not been a success, we wouldn't be at this step now looking to do Project Malachi. And so for everyone who has volunteered and supported the night shelter and now Project Malachi over those years, and particularly our partners at the Welcome Centre in Ramphel, if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't be even dreaming about Project Malachi and a pop-up hostel. But I'd also like to thank the members of our church congregation, because you've supported us as we've taken some risks over the years. And so thank you for that, for being part of that incredibly exciting journey that we've been on. So thank you. And so in that spirit, I'm going to ask not just the members of the sponsoring committee, but all of us here today who are here to support Project Malachi. Would you stand as I read this blessing? No, it's okay. As I read this blessing for each one of us as we journey to make Project Malachi, a pop-up hostel for Ilford, a reality. So may God bless us with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths and superficial relationships, so that we may live deep within our hearts. May God bless us with anger at injustice, oppression and exploitation of people, so that we may work for justice, freedom and peace. May God bless us with tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, rejection, hunger and war, so that we may reach out our hands to comfort them and turn their pain to joy. And may God bless us with enough foolishness to believe that we can make a difference in the world, so that we do what others claim cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all our children and the poor. Amen.
Let's make our way round. Let's go to Chadwick Road.
So here we are at the site where the pop-up hostel will come up. As you probably already heard, this is a former funeral director's, going back over 100 years and has a historical significance to the Salvation Army in Ilford. What you see here is a symbolic art piece which is going to go up in the shelter, in the hostel, when it eventually is complete. And I think it's a great show of a community coming together and showing the support for a noble project. So on behalf of KTV and the sponsoring committee, thank you for joining us at this event, and we hope to update you in the months to come with this project. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.